everybody. You're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. And we're back with you after I think was a 3-week gap. Was it about?
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah,
I think it came to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Life kind of got in the way for all of us.
It really did.
Caleb, I know you were busy as hell. I was busy as hell for part of it. I was in a car accident. I was supposed to go last week to Orlando for an industry conference, and we all know what happened in Orlando last week. And Steve, I think you were busy too.
Yeah, I've had a lot of stuff going on as well, and now I am holding down the fort while my husband's off in Boulder, Colorado, working on an opera. So
Cool.
I've got the entire zoo to take care of.
Cool. So we're here to
You
talk
might see
about
some-
comic books. Now, I just wanted to say before we get moving here, we did have a fairly marquee film come out that's comic book related and a documentary that's comic book related. And I don't know if we're really going to be covering them in detail, but Steve, I don't think you've seen the Joker sequel, have you?
No, I haven't been in a rush.
Yeah. Caleb and I both saw it. I liked it much more than I anticipated. Going from the reviews, it was certainly flawed, but I did think the performances were great. There's so many great elements. The sound design was incredible. Like there's some technical things that, and Hilmar Gotterdammer's score when it wasn't the songs. I thought it's out there for a sequel to a movie that grossed $1 billion. But kind of savaged in the both critically in some circles and with the Rotten Tomatoes people. But I thought it was inventive. I can't think of another film that was like it. And I think
I would absolutely agree with you about the sound design. I thought the soundtrack was great. Even I really enjoy Gaga doing lounge music. I mean, I love that aspect.
She's done it before.
It's right in line with that. I actually thought the performances were really good. It looked good as far as just the visuals. Really shame about the script though. Everything else, just the script. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing that was La Bamba about it. If that's an important thing to you, let me put it this way. And Bill and I have opposite views on this. When we were talking about it, Bill reached out. He's like, "Yeah, no, I thought it was challenging. I also found it challenging not to get up and walk out of the theater."
Yeah,
that was me. But
yeah, but you went back to the performances, and then just the one that he has two scenes. One is much longer than the others, but Lee Gill as Gary Puddles.
Yeah,
this scene was just, just great acting, and just a moment of truly great acting.
Yeah, it was.
So I do hope people see it, even if they don't think they're going to be up for enjoying it. I think it has stuff to offer, but. And Steve, were you able to get out to Superman, the Chris Reeve documentary? I attempted.
I wasn't.
But I just didn't have the time. I know.
Yeah, I wasn't able to. Unfortunately, it really was kind of one of those movies that kind of breezes through around here. Yeah. And I didn't end up going out to Concord/Charlotte to go and track it down. So, but I will be catching it as soon as it comes out digitally because it is definitely. It's one of those movies where watching the trailer made me tear up. So I know that once I see the actual film, I'm going to be, bringing in the tissues and weeping openly because it just looks amazing. And, it brings back memories of when that happened to Christopher Reeve when he had the horse accident and, just watching him after that, becoming more of an activist. And advocate for other people with severe disabilities, and just sort of watching that trajectory in the later part of his life.
Yeah, it looks like I'm in the same boat as you. For me to go see it would be about a 65-minute trip. So I think that's going to have to be a wait for video. I was surprised that it was on 3 screens in my area last
I
week.
need to look and see if it's playing around Little Rock, and
Yeah.
maybe check it out. See if I can go
Yeah.
see it there. But I doubt it. I mean, if it's not playing in your area, then it's slim chance it'll be playing out here in Arkansas, which Central Arkansas being the paragon of culture that it is.
It depends on how you define culture, I guess.
Yeah. Culture. We're also on
culture.
Well, we're not on the eve of New York Comic Con. New York Comic Con actually started today.
Yeah.
And I'm going tomorrow. We already know I'm bitter about it. But
so Bill, let's talk about New York Comic Con.
No, we won't. But it's been, I've gone for 15 of the 16 past years, and the reason I didn't go that one year is because there wasn't one because of COVID. And I have to say, like, if you look at the programming and the exhibitors, there's not a lot of comic stuff.
It doesn't. I mean, no, it's turned into a pop culture con.
Isn't. And that was one thing that was frustrating because it was one of two where the publishers were always there. I mean, DC had huge booths. Dark Horse, the big thing was on Sundays when Dark Horse would put all the goods that they had on sale over the weekend at half price. And it was everything across the board, whether it was like a $3.99 comic or, a $124 artist edition. And Steve and I had some history with Image. They always had a big box. And, even Marvel this time, Marvel's listed as Marvel Studios. It's not actually the publisher. That's there. And that does surprise me since Marvel's one of the few publishers that's still New York City based. And I can understand cost. I mean, I can completely understand how cost is an issue of transporting a lot of stuff. I mean, because the DC booths were, they had huge installations, and it's a shame that stuff isn't there. They do have 2 official panels, one which I will be able to go to. There's other stuff I'm looking forward to, and train ride in with my friends is always fun. So it's
and hopefully you'll bump into some of our mutuals.
But I don't know because they spent almost all their time in Artist Alley, and I find New York Comic Con's Artist Alley to be one of the most congested and unappealing areas. So I don't know if that's going to happen. We even had it on the thread where it was like crickets with the New York City Comic Con.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of folks from the whole EOC familia that's going.
And apparently, like the hotels were just nuts this year.
Dude, I still say the one time I've gone to New York Comic Con, I was not able to stay in Manhattan. I actually stayed on a little mini yacht that I found on Airbnb over on the Jersey side on the docks, and just took the ferry back and forth every day. It was one of the. I'm not joking. It was me and my cousin. It's me and my cousin Ian, who was my best friend, best man at my wedding, who since passed away. We spent the entire time on this mini yacht with the best view of the New York City skyline for 2 people who had never seen it before. And just sleep, like you could get up on the top of the boat, and we actually slept up there one night just because it was fine. And that is one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I tell people all the time, like, seriously, I realize it's the harbor, right? Yes, it's the river, but like, if you can rent a boat and live on it for a week to go back and forth and play in New York. And it was cheaper by half than any hotel I could find.
Where were you docked? Was it in Jersey City or Harrison or
right around Hoboken?
Okay.
So literally within a block of where the ferry goes over, and a 10-minute walk to the Yabbitt Center.
Yep. Cool.
So
wish I knew you then.
Right?
Probably crossed each other a couple times and had no idea.
Destiny, man, it was calling us. Hey, speaking of publishers, can I talk some shit for a second?
Yeah.
Ooh,
okay.
Yes.
Did you guys see the new IDW logo?
Yeah.
I
my
was
God.
wondering who was going to mention that.
Or-
I
It
didn't
is
want to bring
the
it up.
most, bruh. It is the most busted thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it
It is
doesn't
like
look like IDW. It doesn't.
it.
Yeah,
It doesn't look. It literally does not look like IDW. It looks
Yeah.
like JI, or like it look like only looks like
ID.
Like if they didn't get that off Fiverr, they paid too much.
yeah.
Like
Like,
who approved that?
I don't know. Maybe the same person that approved that DC Comics logo that looked like a pharmacy company, a
Oh
pharmaceutical company a
yeah,
couple
maybe
years ago,
so.
which looked better when you saw it on the television entertainment where
Yeah.
it flipped, but it was still like, what the
But at
fuck?
least you knew that was DC and not like
Yeah, I guess.
like
Yeah.
JU.
Still looked like a D and a C.
Yeah. Or
Like,
D is yeah.
the new IDW logo is jank. Like
Yeah.
I've made like
don't know.
snow riding that looked better than that.
Yeah.
That's my shit talking for the week. I just needed to get that out of my system.
Do you
if I can find it,
this is
maybe.
interesting though. Do you have a favorite comic book company logo? I definitely do. I don't think you can beat the DC Bullet.
No, the DC Bullet.
Yeah,
is up there,
I
right?
think
I don't think you can beat it.
Yeah, the original Image Eye for me is pretty, like, it's pretty iconic. Like I love that. But no, the DC Bullet logo is I mean, that's just it is iconic. It does not that is like the best art meets franchising that you can do. I still think it's phenomenal.
And
Yeah,
it's amazing
I
that
agree.
it's revived with the studios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here it is. I was able to find it. Yeah. So this is the new IDW.
Id or LD
or in W or ID. Yeah. I mean,
or IUD if you go by the
IUD. It's what's inside.
It could also be an H within
it
the.
It could be an H. It could be an IDC. Like, I mean, there's just so many ways to interpret these letters.
It could
unfortunately.
It could be a lot of things. What it's not is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, if it's confusing to people who are looking at it, they're not really sure exactly what they're looking at. I think that's the telltale sign it's a bad logo.
Id Comics,
In Whoop Comics, INW Comics. I don't know. But yeah, DC logo, the iconic Image Eye, which has so many uses to it. I love like the fact that it becomes the corner box, the logo itself, and you can do all sorts of great things with it. Marvel, I think, has probably gone through the most boring changes.
I don't think they've never really had a logo. It feels.
See, for me, it's never been the logo. It's always been the corner box for Marvel. To me, the corner box was always the logo. I mean, and I still feel that way. That's so. Our friend Daniel, who he's an artist and he does these really cool corner box commissions and stuff, and I just love them. And to me, that's the Marvel logo. It's just the corner box.
Yeah.
It isn't anything that's notable, but in the 70s, and this also ties into the New York Comic Con because they're premiering action figures from the line. The Atlas comic line had a pretty distinctive A, which I thought was it lets you know what it was.
Was it First Comics that published Grimjack originally?
Yeah,
I think so.
I
Yeah,
liked that logo.
That
That wasn't bad.
Yeah, because I think First took over some of the lines when Pacific went bust, and I just don't know offhand if Grimjack was one of those. Nexus definitely was.
Yeah,
Nexus definitely was. Nexus was Capital Comics, and then
Capital. That's what it was. Yeah, because I know it changed hands a couple times.
Yeah.
We do have some people chiming in here. So James Figueredo, hello James. Best part of the new logo is remembering the D in IDW stands for design. Let's meditate on that. Yes, James. Let us meditate and weep. He also says, "Good evening, you fine, handsome gents." So thank you, fine, handsome James, and excellent work for James Tober. His doodle of the day is basically his artwork of the day of himself as different characters has been really enjoyable. So thank you, James.
I love it.
And we also have Daniel Williamson joining in. If you didn't know the name of the company, you would not guess it correctly from the logo. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking at it, I would have no idea. And good evening also for me, though it's morning for me. So,
well, hey, good
morning, Daniel.
Top of the morning to you, Daniel.
But yeah, I mean, it's
All right.
it's disappointing.
Why did you go
unfortunately,
Irish for a second?
What? I just did. I don't know.
Is it morning in Ireland? I don't think it is. Like, what's...
Not yet. No, they're still asleep.
It'll get there though.
I just.
It's like Karen Kilgara from My Favorite Murder. Every time that somebody asks her to do an Australian accent, it just becomes Irish.
Yeah.
One of my good friends, Bill Stewart, doesn't matter what imitation he starts out with, it ends up as either Mr. Magoo or Katharine Hepburn. Like, he could be imitating. He could be imitating Arnold Schwarzenegger in like 2 minutes and ends up being. He admits it too. It's so funny. Yeah.
That's great. But yeah, so poor IDW. I don't know if they're going to get their money back from that. Probably not. And I'm sure it's not going to last very long.
It'll last about as long as the company lasts, I think. Huh? What?
At this rate.
Oh, did you say something?
They'll think of something. They'll change it back.
Well, they don't.
IDW Classic.
They kind of don't
on the shelves of the year.
Properties.
They don't have any titles. What do they got?
Like little properties, you know. They're so license heavy. That, I mean, like, what's the only notable thing I can think that started with them was 30 Days of Night.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's on part and parcel by Niles. So
was oh my gosh, what is the name of it? Is Winona Earp, is that IDW or is that Dark Horse?
I think it's bounced around. I think it's bounced around a couple.
Yeah, it does feel like Dark Horse though. But I mean, IDW has had good stuff in the past. They just have nothing right now.
No.
I mean, I can't think of one thing. I mean, maybe Star Wars Adventures that they're publishing through for Marvel.
I mean, the Rocketeer.
They do have the Rocketeer.
Helping pretty good stuff for the 1,400 people that buy those. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget I forget the Rocketeers at IDW.
I think Star Trek is still with them. I think. Oh, it had to be because that was on the cover of the previews.
Yeah.
Lower Decks was.
Yeah, I think it is because Doctor Who is with Titan. Doctor Who stayed with Titan.
Yeah,
but I think they have done some IDW work.
Yeah.
Some crossover stuff.
Power Rangers is still Boom, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
For now, yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Like the last IDW series I got were Rocketeer and Breath of Shadows. And the thing in the woods with the bear serial killer. That was IDW.
If you go into the woods, what was that? Yeah, that one was really interesting.
It doesn't trip off the tongue, so let's not worry about it. We can look it up.
James has come in. Winona Earp started with Image, I think, but it's been with IDW for many years now.
Okay.
So they still have that, and they did just come out with the TV movie continuation of this TV series
on Tubi.
Bless you.
What you did.
Sorry about that.
You blew your nose.
I would normally mute myself, but I'm operating off of my cell phone since I'm traveling, and I'm actually at a work convention on a mountain. So fear not, I have not been kicked out of my home. I'm just in a hotel room.
Well, I'm in the X Mansion.
Much cooler days.
I was telling these guys, we did a refinance on the house, and certain things were covered up when the appraisal came through, and we still haven't moved stuff. So that's why it's like this. Yeah. Adulting.
I also want to thank.
I also got my pre-check for my next colonoscopy. Adulting, yay!
Oh, good luck with that prep. Good luck with that prep work. Daniel just reminded me that I misspelled many in my little subtitle, so I just fixed it. So for anybody who is watching this,
so Manny?
So man horror movies.
Oh, okay.
Like there are lots of men in those horror movies. Mostly
and
they
Steve,
are.
I'd like to congratulate you and myself in sticking to a schedule about 31 days of something horror. I've been doing the Bronze Age horror, and you've been doing films that you've watched.
I was. I was doing good about getting those transferred over to our Instagram page for about one day, and then I need to catch up.
Yeah, just catch up.
Just redo those. I've been loving just seeing all the write-ups that you have on the Bronze Age horror comics, most of which I've heard of before, but not knowing that much about them, and the fact that there was
That's the thing is like I didn't know that Charlton had hosts in those horror books. That they were aping DC in that context, and it's also it seems like 75 was a bad year for horror. Seems like most of the series ended in that year, but with Charlton, that's when Scary Things and Monster Hunters starts. So it is weird, but like Marvel, like in 75, they like almost I think everything except for Tomb of Dracula and Ghost Rider ended. Like everything.
Wacky.
And it was weird because it was like a third of their publishing line for a time. The horror books.
It is just, I mean, you don't think about like for most people who started reading comics in the 80s or 90s or later, thinking about horror comics before the Comics Code disappeared, just petered out. Like obviously, when you think of horror comics, like the EC horror comics titles and like the early DC stuff, but there was a lot that happened in the 70s. There was a ton of titles. And even in the 80s, when things started loosening up, I mean, you got more horror books, but of like a much more, I guess, prestige kind of horror. But like the 70s, just seeing like the Bronze Age examples, it's like there was a lot that obviously was more than just Monster of the Week, but like had a lot of great continual stories. And then you also had the sort of the throwback anthologies as well.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a fun mix. It's good to see those.
If I do it next year, I think I'm going to do the black and white magazines.
Very cool.
Because there's enough to get you through a month between Skywald and Marvel. Naturally, DC only had one issue of one, which was a Kirby book called Spirit World. But I think I think I could do like a black and white throwing Warren in. I think
you can even do some. I mean, there were some issues of like Savage Sword and stuff that were all black and white that were absolutely horror genre. I mean, so there's stuff that you can do with that. I mean, there's a lot of Wrightson stuff that was all black and white horror stuff.
Yeah, Atlas had 2 books, Weird Tales of the Macabre and Devilina. So I think I could get through it. I definitely could do it with the 4-color.
I should do if I can remember and actually stick to it next year. Do like a manga, a 30 days of manga horror.
Okay, good idea. Do that. Yeah, cool. Absolutely.
For Spooky Halloween.
Spooky Halloween, everybody.
Speaking of Spooky Halloween, Halloween is 2 weeks from Thursday. 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today.
Yeah. I know that's a difficult day to get together, but maybe we should get together one night that week.
Yeah.
Do some scary books.
Yeah.
Costumes or not?
Fun.
Oh yeah, if you got them, yeah.
Oh, I have 2 costumes on deck this year. One for a work party and one that I could not wear to my work party.
Okay.
Wear that one. Wear that one. I do not dress up, but I might be able to steal a wig from Jason. He's got like 5,000 in his studios.
A wig.
A wig.
A wig. It will look scary, I'll tell you that.
I went as Supergirl to a party. I was a terrible looking woman.
Was it the beard? Is that what did it?
No, I was shaved.
Oh, okay.
I just wasn't an attractive looking woman. But I was total Cher, like the whole night with the hair. Like the whole night.
Oh. But which era Cher? I think that's the real question.
What? Oh.
Oh,
what was the? I think it was like RuPaul's Drag Race. There was one season where somebody did a Cher impersonation. It was the worst impersonation ever. It didn't make any sense. I think it was like somebody last season.
Who?
Like was like their Cher impression was.
I don't watch Drag Race. I don't watch, but I've seen clips here and there. Whoever the queen was that did Eartha Kitt was fantastic.
Oh, that yeah.
I will walk
She
the
is.
element to the thermostat. It was very good.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Can we get
What
to
do
our
we?
comments?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
we want to talk about some book.
yeah. We all have an X book. As I'm
X-book.
near the X Mansion, which will probably blow up by the end of the episode. Like, has anybody counted how many times the X Mansion has been leveled? It's
I
got to
don't.
be double digits. It has to be at this
I don't know, but I think if we all do X-Men, we have to like reboot next week or something like
point.
that.
Okay. But
New
we
number
got an X
one.
book. Um, I think Caleb probably has the most marquee book of the three. So why don't you start us off? I know it's going to be sad, but go ahead from what you've hinted at.
Well, no, it was it. I won't say it's going to be sad. So I actually did some catch up this week and actually read Adjectiveless X Men, Uncanny or 1 through 4, Uncanny 1 and 2. Have not gotten to X Factor yet, but also was able to read the book I'm going to talk about, which is Exceptional X Men. And this is one of the reasons I picked it up, just because I saw the name of the writer, and it's a writer I like. It's Evel Ewing, with art by Carmen Canero. We've got colors by Noah Woodard and Joe Sabino doing the letters. And I honestly didn't know what to expect from this book. Honestly, I didn't really know what to expect from any of the new line. Just trying to see where they go after the end of the Krakoa era, and now they're getting people are trying to get it back on track and see what they can do with it. Has not been a lot of energy behind this. I don't know what you call it. It's not really a relaunch, but just kind of bringing the X Men back. Not a lot of people are liking the books. In fact, I've seen people say a lot of bad things about them, which to some degree I think is valid, is warranted, right? But after reading what I've read, I haven't read anything that I would call bad. I've read things that are just they're fine. They're okay. They're X-Men books, right? They're forgettable. So they're not things that we'll remember in 30 years, but I also don't remember the vast majority of X-Men stories that I've read. There's some of them are just fine, and that's okay. And I would put Exceptional X-Men in that book. And in this first issue, there's not a lot happening. So really where it picks up is it finds us in Chicago in a bar, which, if you got to be in a bar, Chicago's not a bad place to be. And why are we there? Well, this is where Kitty Pryde has landed, and she's trying to walk away from everything. She's trying not to think about life before. She's trying not to think about who she was with the Marauders. She wants to completely get away from that life. So she's bartending. She's serving drinks, and it's like a Sunday or a Saturday, and they're doing bottomless brunch, and she's just like, this is a living hell, and she's just trying to live something akin to an average life where she doesn't use her powers per se. She's not heroing. She's not being somebody's savior. She's not really connected with any of the other mutants. She's moved back in with a childhood friend, or just somebody that she's known. Who she's sharing an apartment with, and she's just working as much as she can. She's doing that thing that a lot of us do, where she's trying to fill every single minute of her day with work, with energy, so that she does not have to dwell on things of the past, and really not have to focus on what she has lost and what her people have lost. She wants nothing to do with it anymore, and that's all fine and dandy. But sometimes we don't get options when about who we are, especially when you're somebody who is drawn to heroics, right? When you're somebody who is called to be a helper, you're going to be a helper. So, Kate has a night off, and she is actually supposed to go on a date, and she's going to go see a band. It reminded me a little bit of Bill. She's like, yeah, no, I'm going to go see this band from my high school era. I'm going to go to early stuff. I've seen them like 20 times, but I'm just going to go dive into some deep nostalgia and remember what I love about these groups. And she's got a date lined up with I don't really know who it is, but it's with a girl that she met. She's excited about it. And then she gets there and realizes, well, hey, the people on the marquee is like it's something. It's supposed to be like Rainbow Kitty Surprise, which is a real band. It's called Bunny Starlight Dreams. um, and it's very much a hyper pop situation, right? Everybody's wearing these really bright pink and yellow and weird hair, and it's very just in it. If you know that hyper pop crowd, people wearing the just the different colored hair, it's crazy. Everything is just like day glow. And she's like, this is definitely not what I signed up for. And also, my date just stood me up. And then she realizes, well, that's because the concert I wanted to go to is tomorrow night. This is my only night off. I can't read my calendar. I'm just, failing at all points. But I might as well go out and enjoy my life. And about the time that she's walking in, she hears a commotion, and there is a bouncer who is not letting a young a young girl in, a young black girl in. For what reason we really don't know. He's just not having it. He's like, yeah, no, you're not in. I'm the bouncer. I'm security. I'm the venue. I say who gets in, and you're not getting in. And he puts her hands on her, and she tells him, hey, like stop, like this is unfair. And he puts his hands on her again, and lo and behold, she's a mutant, right? So her skin turns metallic. She gets these things that come out of her. She knocks dude about 20 feet away, and Kitty's just like, hey, that was dope, good for her, but watch me mind my own business and not meddle. I'm not. She's not a meddler anymore. She's gonna go over here and just do her thing. Um, except for the bouncer pulls a gun and shoots at old girl, and that's when Kitty's like, yeah, I'm not down for that. So she does the Kitty Pride thing, and she goes and she grabs our little friend, and then starts pulling her through walls, and of course they're getting chased by security, and finally they escape, and she's just like, all right, like we need to go home. Tell me where you're at, tell me where I'm taking you, tell me what we're doing. She does something really cool, and she gives her ID, and says, look, this is collateral, so if I try to kidnap you, you can jump out and you've got my ID. So we're going to go from there. Not her the person that she rescued, her name is Trista. Not really sure what her mutant name is going to be. That may have been listed in here and I just missed it, but um, this is kind of just a meet cute for them, right? So now Trista knows where Kitty lives. Next day, Kitty wakes up and there was like a little gift basket sitting on her front porch. And she's like, hey, thanks for the save, you're my hero. It's full of all goodies, and again, little teddy bears, little cutesy things. And Kate's like, oh, okay, well, that was nice, that's a nice connection. Well, yeah, I'll stay in touch and maybe start taking care of this kid. It's not what I wanted the book to be. I was really hoping we get getting the team together, but I think we're going to see that in issue two. The last few pages of the book cut away from Kitty Pride, and they start focusing on our dear friend, the beast that she is, Emma Frost. And Emma Frost is sitting in a chair, and she's going through a Rolodex in her brain, and she's checking up on all of her teammates. And she's like, Wolverine, gross. Cyclops, boring. Been there, done that. Quite literally. Other people, and she's thinking, and she's like, oh, Kitty Pride, what are you up to? And then she starts thinking, and over where Kitty's at, it shows her getting a headache because somebody's messing with her mind, and it's Emma Frost who has now got her in her sights and is going to go inject herself in a way that Emma Frost is known to do. She doesn't take no for an answer, and so that's where we're going to see this team get built up. It's a fun story. It is very, very focused on Kitty trying to getting drawn back into a life that she tried to escape and can't, meeting these new characters and these new people. Um, I do like Eve Ewing's writing. I think she has a good voice for all these characters. It felt like Kitty Pride. The art was fine. There was nothing exceptional about it. Didn't blow my socks off. Not something I'm going to run out and buy original art for, but it was fine. It was not bad. I did not find myself just like in disgust. It was just kind of, and I realized artists hate that, right? Like I was like, yeah, it was in the zone. It was fine. It wasn't extraordinary. It didn't do anything for me. It's just okay. And to some degree, that's probably an insult. And if so, I apologize. But I thought it was serviceable. Um, am I gonna carry on with this? Probably not. I may check it out in trade. I may see where they go with it. Not really any of the X characters that I'm in love with. I like Kitty Pride just fine, but I've got a very select group of X-Men that I try to follow, and none of these characters are that person, or one of those characters. So, if this is something, if you want a team book, if you want an X-Men book that is different from what the mainstream is and doesn't focus on some of those mainstream characters of who we think of the X-Men. I mean, you can go to Adjective List, and that's got Wolverine and Cyclops, and then you go to Uncanny, that's got Rogue and got Gambit, and those characters. But this is just going to have Kitty Pride and Emma, which could be fun, right? There's some attitude there. So if that sounds up your alley and it appeals to you, and you want to see some new characters introduced and kind of like a younger team, maybe this is for you. So I encourage you to check it out and go see what they're doing with it. Um, but at least give it a chance. So that's exceptional X-Men. Not a rave review, but I'm not gonna blow smoke.
Okay.
But it was not bad.
Okay. I saw some horrible reviews for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did too, and
horrible reviews for it. So I
Yeah,
think I was bracing for that impact when I introduced you. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't see. I don't really understand the absolute contempt that some reviewers had for it. It wasn't great. It was very much a self-contained story about Kitty. The one thing that made me happy about it was the fact that she reintroduced herself as Kitty Pryde and not Kate Pryde or
right.
Catherine Pryde like she's been doing,
Yeah.
where they've been having pushed for the past several years since Marauders started. And that's nice to me. It kind of signals maybe a return to that type of Kitty Pryde, like that type of character that I enjoy. Not that I don't want my characters to ever change or grow or whatever, go through any kind of personal journeys, but I always liked Kitty Pryde when she was the person who kind of had their head on straight on their shoulders. Everybody else was doing crazy stuff, but she was always the one that was like, you know what? I know what I need to do. I'm going to do this, and just kind of personified that sort of brave and face in the fact that she was kind of usually shown as underpowered in many places, but the reinvention during the Krakoa era just kind of made her mean, and I didn't really enjoy, kind of like the tough, mean Kitty Pryde who just seemed kind of spiteful and resentful.
Kate Pryde.
No nonsense, but it was more just sort of like, I don't like anybody I work with. It's just like, okay.
It's amazing because, like, I think there are some people. It's like, I know he's a very problematic creator at this point, but Joss Whedon.
Oh yeah.
Like, his Kitty Pryde is Claremont's Kitty Pryde. He had that voice down so perfectly. But there's been other iterations of her where, where it's kind of close to that, but not exactly on the mark. Like I loved Wolverine and the X-Men from Jason Aaron, but his Kitty Pryde was off. She was way off in characterization. I never heard that voice. It's interesting that of all the X-Men characters, that seems to be the one. It's weird because I think it's the one from the original line that had the most distinct voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yet that distinct voice hasn't followed. Where other characters like Storm's always Storm. And like it's weird because it doesn't seem that would be that hard to tap into. It just surprises me because I think there's been like a lot of variety in the depictions of her in the
honestly who her voice reminded me of. It reminds me a lot of Rainbow Rowell's She-Hulk. Lost, trying to, not really sure what she wants to do, trying to get away from the life that she lived and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that there. So I think that's the story that's trying to be told. But I saw those same kind of negative reviews, and I'm not even going to say they're not warranted. Yeah. They very well could be, and I'm not going to knock them because, like I said, this was not something that just electrified me. But also, I liked Eve Ewing's Ironheart, and that got shat upon. I liked Mariko Tamaki's She-Hulk. And not a lot of people did. A lot of people hated that run. And so, my taste with things, I don't need everything to be.
I liked it a lot. It was sad.
It was very sad. But it was very slow, though. And it was very, there were action moments, but it was very psychological, very slow, and just, kind of tepid at times.
Yeah.
And that's okay because sometimes I like that. So, it's to each their own.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you got an next book. What is it? And tell us all about it.
So I went through another book. Again, I never read volume 1 of the series when it came out several years ago. But the NYX, volume 2, the new version of NYX that's come out. I didn't really know what to expect with this. Essentially, it's kind of all we've got of a New Mutants-ish book at the moment. And that's kind of what I was hoping for. I'm hoping for a New Mutants revival. Now that everything else is getting another series or mini series, why not a New Mutants? And this kind of fulfills that a little bit, but it leans a little bit closer to more of a a champions vibe. You've got Miss Marvel, you've got Laura as Wolverine, you've got Prodigy, you've got Anole, and Sophie of the Cuckoos are part of this group. And it really, the first issue again is kind of like getting the group together more or less, like just kind of bringing a few people in at, not a terribly memorable story, but it is kind of introducing this new group that are in New York City for whatever reason. They're living, living life, trying to, make it on their own. Miss Marvel, of course, is going to university, um, and just kind of come together to address the fact that mutants are being, persecuted again. That there's a lot of danger out there for young mutants who kind of no longer have the support of Krakoa, and there's a lot of resentment out there, about what was happening during the whole fall of Krakoa and Orcus era. And in the second issue, it kind of moves on a little bit to more of Laura's perspective as she's trying to infiltrate an interesting gang that's formed around, trying to support mutants, but like basically bringing in, young mutants with powers and kind of setting them off to tasks. So sort of like vaguely criminal, vaguely like mischief making, but there's something more to it. And as she gets into this and kind of, goes undercover, as it were, as Scratch, obviously the other people who are part of this NYX kind of loose affiliation recognize who she is. But as she goes into this group, there's a Mr. Friend who's supposedly running everything and kind of calling the shots. And she goes to encounter him after she's kind of done enough to warrant his audience and warrant his attention. And it's revealed that Mr. Friend doesn't really exist. It is a puppet that's being controlled by Mojo. So Mojo essentially is feeding off of this energy that's produced by all of these, young mutants going out and doing all these exciting, crazy things and criminal activities and things. And he loves it. He feeds off the energy, he feeds off the attention, the audience response from Mojo World of watching these mutants do these things in his version of a reality show for them. And of course, she's she's like, this can't be done. We cannot have this. I knew something was really fishy. Tries to fight him. He's of course extremely strong because of course the more people respond and love his programming, the stronger and more invincible he essentially becomes. So that's just one part of it. Well, she just goes up. There's not much you can do in this case, but she and the rest of what becomes NYX, I guess more or less solidify, coalesce into a little bit more of a group. And one of the characters, Anole, has his job at a human bar that he loses because there's mutants coming around and the owner doesn't like that. So
I love that I love that that's the default job for mutants now, is like they all just go get bartending jobs.
Yeah, they just tend bar.
Yeah, somewhere
become servers.
Somewhere Blob is like, I was doing it before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's kind of an interesting kind of comment. It's like, okay, well, how best do these people, who just kind of want to blend in and forget about the life of being essentially an immortal in a playland, in a pleasure island where they're on top, they become subservient. They become servers. You've got Kitty who's working a diner. You've got you've got Anole who's a bartender until he's fired. It's just very, it's kind of like, it's kind of sad that that's really what they think is the only way that's going to take attention away from themselves.
Well,
and
really,
in the third
they don't
issue,
have a lot of marketable skills.
Yeah, what skills could any mutant really have to make themselves more interesting or attractive to employers? But in that third issue, it focuses kind of on his response to the situation when they go to attend a memorial service for a mutant teenager who's murdered. by what we come to find are the Purifiers, who have been following around, different mutants and trying to just harass them, and if not harass them, then outright kill them or rough them up. Um, he sees that the Morlocks have come out to pay their respects. So you see Caliban, you see several other, the very inhuman looking mutants have come to really, just show that, hey, a mutant has died, and this is a sad moment that all mutants need to come together for this. But then they go back down underground, and so he follows them and is essentially confronted, by Caliban, and Caliban saying like, you don't belong up there. Look at how you look. You look like this. You shouldn't be wanting to be part of that society. You need to come and be with us because we all look very strange, but we're not strange to each other. And of course, one of the things that he makes him do is to take off his clothes, and just kind of show like, hey, we're all just looking at you, but we're not looking at you in like a gross way. And he's like, this is still kind of skeevy. Like, I know I deal with guys on apps who are just like into scales, but this is kind of another level. And of course, the Purifiers follow him down, and NYX, the other sort of loose team that has formed, follow down as well to help the Morlocks out and defeat the Purifiers. Sophie scrambles their brains and sends them on their way. But at the end of that issue, they ask Anole to stay, and Laura and Miss Marvel and Sophie, they know to leave. Prodigy, they know to leave because this isn't really their world. Even though they're all mutants, these mutants can't go topside. The perennial sort of Morlock issue. But at the same time, Anole's like, I want to be visible. I want to be up there. I want people to see that we exist, that we're not hiding ourselves away in the sewer. And I want to be that kind of visible touch point for others, especially young people who are mutants, who are, needing to see something that's not ashamed to be out there, or interpreted to be ashamed of being out in public. And so, I think this is it's interesting. There's a couple interesting moments in there. The writers Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, I think they're trying to put these young people in a position where they are understanding their role politically, where Miss Marvel's like, she's shouting out slogans and it's kind of funny when they're fighting the Purifiers, but there's a point to it in that she's finding herself a lot more politically centered, where it's important. And she's always been that character. I mean, being a Muslim American character, but here she's also a mutant American character, and they're trying to do that for her and this team together, to show that there is room for political activism here. It's not just going to be fighting bad guys. It's going to be, visibility and togetherness and like the future of the mutant population in this new post Krakoa world. I don't know. I think it might be a little bit too lofty for this series, to be honest. There's plenty of other series that are out there that are kind of dealing with that. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I'm enjoying it so far. I wasn't really expecting to, because with the exception of Wolverine Laura and maybe Sophie, I'm not a huge fan of the other characters that are popping up. Like Anole, I like when he's around, but he works best when he's with the other group of Wolverine students.
Yeah. He
but,
needs. I need him with Blob, not Blob.
Yeah,
with Glob.
with Glob and Quentin and
yeah. No, I know exactly.
ID. That kind of group works really well together, and having him here, with like Miss Marvel, who again, I'm still getting used to the fact that she's a mutant.
I'm with you. I still don't. My brain. I mean, I know she is, but my brain has not accepted that she's a mutant yet. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel. I don't like. I don't not like it, but it's just. It's not a. It doesn't feel like that's where she belongs yet, and so she's going to be an outsider in all the things that she's in. In that, I mean, I'm trying to think of who. There were some other folks that they did that too as well when they retconned them.
Namor.
Yeah, well, that's
Way
true.
more.
Yeah, the first
Maybe.
mutant.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I mean, that was a
No. They were always mutants.
Yeah, well,
They
and
were.
it's weird to me
eh,
that they're not mutants, right? Like
They were always
that's like
mutants.
yeah,
they're always going to be mutants to me.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah,
I mean, I'm talking in their conception. You know.
yeah,
yeah. But like
Yeah.
changing it back, like where they were not mutants now. You know, they
Yeah.
started as mutants, but now they're not mutants, and then
yeah.
possibly they're mutants again.
Yeah.
That whole thing that happened a few years ago. Yeah. I mean, this book could be an attempt, in of trying to show like Miss Marvel's also struggling with that idea that she's a mutant too. There is a confrontation that she has in this issue with her brother and her cousin, and her cousin shows himself to be very anti-mutant. But it's I don't know it. Possibly we'll see how it develops. But
Yeah.
the art is by Francesco Mortinario. Yeah, Mortarino. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing that. Raul Angelo on colors and Joe Sabrino on lettering. And I think they do a pretty good job. The colors are bright. Everything's very I think very readable. And yeah, I mean it's good. Kale kind of feel the same way. It's like it's serviceable. It's like
Yeah.
this is a good comic. It's well done. Nothing's really jumping out at me as like really amazing, but yeah, I mean,
Can I
I'll
like
probably keep reading this one.
to that regard? I feel like that's a lot of what I've read across the board, and to some degree, I feel like editorial just kind of knew. Okay, the fandom is not going to like anything outside of Krakoa because they loved that stuff. They loved Krakoa. Honestly, the fandom was pissed that the way that they handled Krakoa, and I think they knew that. So they're like, all right, we're not going to even try anything super heavy handed. We're just going to ease back into it. Here's some stuff until we can kind of figure out where they're going.
I don't think all corners of fandom were crazy about Krakoa.
No,
At least not where it ended up.
no, no,
Well,
no.
no, I mean that's
said
where it
no.
ended up.
Yeah.
They didn't
That's
like where it ended. Once Hickman left, the fandom did like across the board. The fandom did not like where they went with it.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
the way that they ended it, even though they ended it the way that they did, and I don't think people like that. I also think people and the fandom were really pissed that Marvel seemed to squander everything that Jonathan Hickman handed them on a silver platter and that they could have played with for the next like 10, 15 years and just threw it away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I think the excitement after Hoxpox and the new Krakoan era. I think that was really a powerful amount of interest that came out of that, but it was easily diluted by all the dozens of books that came out afterwards, and then of course the kind of petering out fizzle to like the okay everybody's gonna die like that. Okay. But yeah, I think they're going to be throwing out a lot. There are so many titles right
Yeah.
now for X-Men, and Bill's going to talk about another one.
Yep.
That they're going to be trying a whole bunch of stuff to see what sticks, what people, what resonates with readers, and well, we'll see.
Something will
We'll
stick.
see.
Yeah.
Something will stick. I think X-Men for sure, like adjectiveless X-Men is going to stick around. X-Force probably. I think X-Force is doing pretty well. But maybe NYX. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
See. Well, one book that I think at best is a limited series masquerading as an ongoing, but that's a lot of books these days, is Dazzler #1. Steve, it would be better for you to have a better graphic there with that absolutely gorgeous cover by the Dodsons. And, one thing that's great about this book is what we get is Dazzler. We get Disco Dazzler with the freaky eye makeup and and the high heels. I mean, this is what we get. We don't have any variation on that where it's Dazzler in name only in terms of costume. And where is Dazzler at this point in life? Well, when she was on Krakoa, she was a little bored and she spent the time working on an album. And that album has spent 8 weeks at #1. So she is now a stadium act. So she's going to go on tour to support the album. And she brings some of her friends with her. Her friends include Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man, who is the crew. Effectively,
Yes,
he's
I love
basically
it.
every member of the crew. Guido is there as well. Their friend Strong Guy, also originally from X Factor. We also have Shark Girl from Wolverine and the X-Men on drums. And we also have Wind Dancer there. You can see her there. That she's effectively the manager of the tour. And the head of security is Domino. Now, one thing that Allison always felt was that she was lacking in combat skills, just always let her powers, take care of the situations. And she realized that, hey, if I'm going to go on tour, you know, you know, there are people that love mutants, but there's sure people who hate them.
Yeah.
And I have to be ready for that. So she gets Domino to be her head of security. And there's a lot of flashbacks within the first issue of Domino teaching her how to combat. It's nice. And it seems like so many of the X books right now, there's a heaviness to them because I do think there's like I'm not sure what direction they know that even the books are going to go, the people working on them are. But what we have in Dazzler is just fun from the word go. And one thing that was a chestnut was was standard in her original terrible series from the 80s. I know people like Wax Poetic read that shit. That's all I'm going to say. Just read it. It was not good. But she would be on stage and this constantly happened, and then somebody would fight her while she was on stage. They deliberately do that here in the form of Scorpia, who is a female version of Scorpion that I've never been aware of. And again, they are in a situation where, there still is a lot of anti-mutant hysteria. There's a Westboro Baptist Church analog that's protesting her appearances, but there's even more fans that come in. They come dressed as her. They're so excited about seeing the show. So instead of ending the concert, she just keeps singing while she's fighting with Scorpia. Now the thing was, this was tied to the anti-mutant hysteria because Shark Girl has a very, she looks like a shark, and Wind Dancer actually initiates it. Hey, let's put an image enhancer like Nightcrawler used to wear, so that she looks human to the audience, so it minimizes some of this hysteria. And whoever knew about that hired Scorpion to take that thing off. But it doesn't have the effect you would think, because just as that happens, Allison goes into the title track of her album, Out and Proud, which is about her struggle being a mutant, but let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also another song she performs earlier about like what a dick Warren was to her. So there is that sort of like Taylor Swift writing about your ex-boyfriends elements to it. The art and this. Let me tell you about the team. It's Jason Liu is the writer. He's done a few things like Infinity Pause and some other X-Men work, Sentry. He's been on some Marvel titles. The artist, though, is Rafael Lorello, and this is his debut with Marvel. And from my understanding, how he got this job is he was posting X-Men 92 redesigns, how he would have redesigned the outfits, and that got him the job. He was just posting these things, and it got the eye of Tom Brevoort and put him on this title. And he does a great job with this. I mean, the action scenes are really well thought out. What could be just a trite, gimmicky book, I think had a lot of heart to it. I don't think it's here for the long haul. The initial arc seems to be a world tour. So in the next issue, they're clearly here in the States. In the next issue, they're going to be in London. That both Shark Girl and Wind Dancer are from Venezuela. That might be a very interesting issue when they go to the South American portion of their world tour. But it was just not that I've read intensely a lot of the new X books, but I do know from sources that
they can be better
with the situation where they were post Krakoa. There's not a lot of happy things going on.
Yeah.
And this is an element. This music is celebratory, and she's getting a message of tolerance across through her music, and it's a nice antidote to some of the other stuff that's going on there. So I really liked it.
So
I did too.
Question based solely on the snippet of the art that you showed. Does Domino have like a 1992 flat top now?
Yes,
She does. Yes.
yes,
She does.
yeah.
But the thing, so like going back to the art, and
it's practically like House Party.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah. And see, I got kind of like a Demi Moore like a Demi Moore vibe when she had really short hair.
Maybe Kid and Play wasn't the best.
Yeah. But so going back to the art here, for the first two books, for Exceptional and for NYX, it's serviceable art.
Yeah.
For this artist, for Loureiro to like basically just this is his first book, this is great. Like I really, for some reason, and I think it felt a little bit, it felt kind of DC to me.
Just yes, it did. It felt a little DC. Yes,
something about it, but like something felt like House of DC.
That.
It fit really well with this. I mean, this I think was a great choice for artist, and I think if he keeps up this, what he's been doing with the design, he doesn't get like burnt out early on. Being his first book, it can be a real challenge there. I think this is so far one of my favorite.
Yeah, I also hope that like the Black Canary, when she was in a band, when they did have musical tie-ins, I hope we actually hear these songs, because they do provide. You're not going to be able to see it with this stuff the way I am. But
I got my copy. Yeah,
but they do provide the lyrics to "Out and Proud" in there.
Yeah,
that's
credited to Jason Liu and Allison Blair.
There is also another feel that this book has for me, but Caleb, you go first.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I love, so I haven't read this. I'm going to have to check it out. But we were talking earlier, and Bill was like, hey, Jamie Madrox is one of your favorite X characters, right? And I'm like, oh, like hands down, absolutely. Like, I love that guy. He's like, he's in this book. And I'm like word? Like, let me go check this out. Like what and Bill was sitting there like, he's like, you're not going to believe what role he plays. And I said, what book is it? He said, Dazzler. I was like, oh, he's the road crew. And Bill was just like, damn it, yes, that's absolutely what he is.
He's like, the road crew, and he's the backup dancers.
Yeah, that's the way I would. That's the way I would write him. That's the way I would absolutely write him into this book. So I love that he's getting used really in a positive way.
I also got a little bit of a Gem and the Holograms feel.
Definitely.
Book,
definitely.
From several years back. That was one of my favorite books of the year that it came out. Yeah. Especially putting lyrics in the back, because that, like, there are big sections of this book where it's just her performing in the concert, and just, the fun shapes and designs for the lettering. And this goes back to the lettering.
Even harkening back to the original Gems television series. Yeah. I mean, like, you could totally see Allison's lights being used there.
Synergy! Like, you could just totally see, that's Daniel mentioned here, some mutants 10 bar or live in sewers. Dazzler sells out stadiums. Sounds right. Yep. She's not living in a sewer anytime soon.
No.
But no.
I got a thumbs up. But again, I also don't know how long this book is here for, because I don't think that's a character that can really maintain an ongoing. And there's nothing wrong with that. No. There's nothing wrong with it. Some characters are good in little spurts, but if we at least get to see this world tour, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope they do finish it out, that it doesn't end early. I think that'll be good.
Okay. Now, Caleb, I know that you really didn't have much prepared because you are on your retreat. So if that's your only book, I think Steve and I both have another one that we can discuss.
Do you want to combine?
Yeah, y'all go ahead and carry on. I will say the only other thing I've been reading is I'm still on my trek going through and reading through the Submariner Masterworks editions, slowly but surely. reading it, there's some really good stuff in there. I'm working through the series right now. We're just past that kind of Daredevil issue where it really kicked him off back into the Marvel arena, where he goes in there and tries to fight the world, and then tries to basically enlist Matt Murdock to sue the human race,
Yeah.
to get the Atlanteans their due. And while he's gone, Krang takes over, steals his throne, takes Dorma as his would be bride. And Subby has to go and find the Triton of Neptune to beat him. Fights a giant squid in a hole, and does all kinds of stuff. But
which goes on for like years.
yeah, it goes
Goes
on for a long
for
time.
years.
It,
It was like 2 years of worth of Tales to Astonish.
Yep.
Or like this was the storyline for that.
And a lot of it was inked by Vince Coletta, and I still like every time I see Vince Coletta ink, and it really doesn't matter who it is. There are panels where I'm like, "Holy shit, that is amazing!" And look, weird, intricate detail. And then there's panels like, "Oh my god, never pick up a pen again. Just never do it."
If he took his time, he was very good.
Yeah, he could
if
be.
If he took his time, he was very good, but he didn't take his time a lot.
Ever. And there's just so much that, like, the shading is terrible. The lines.
I mean, if you think Coletta's work at Marvel is bad, you should take a look at the DC stuff.
Oh, I've seen it. I just, and it's so funny because there will be little throwaway panels where he just does an amazing job. The corners are crisp. Everything is, and like to that point though, and I think this is a conversation that's warranted. Going back and looking at these really drives home the point about how important the inker was in this era, and kind of how the colorist has become the new important figure, maybe overboard the inker, because not a lot of people use inkers anymore, because with digital you don't need it, you can do it yourself. And so I think that it's becoming a not a lost art, because there's still lots of inkers out there, there's lots of people who do it, but as far as the importance of that role to the industry is, it's lessened now. And I think the colorist has a way, is more important to the story and the tone of the story than the inker can be in the vast majority of books, although that's not universal. But it's a fun trek, right? I'm really excited about doing this. There's lots of stories I haven't read before, lots of these that I have, and I just am not, I didn't read them with an eye towards memory. Going back and looking at these now, just knowing who Stan was and knowing what these stories were, and all the years that came after, and kind of viewing it more so as a, hey, let me take my time with this and pick it apart and see what they're really doing here. That's a fun exercise. So the Masterworks editions are great. You can catch a lot of them at different cons for fairly cheap. I mean, they're usually $50 for a pop, and they're not very big for $50, but you get them on sale, it's worth it. And good reprints. I really enjoy it. So, and plus they're like leather bound and look great on a bookshelf, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know if Bill was frozen, but that was a great spot to be frozen in.
Guess so.
But yeah, I mean, Bill, we could combine our one, because I know you didn't you read?
I read All In, but I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I was prepared to respond to it. But if you want to do that, if you want to ditch the indie, we could just do half Marvel, half DC. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on, because I did have some really interesting books that I've been reading. The new Matt and Margie Kraft Kent, Guilt Frame, and Boom put out another horror comic, The Creeping Below. Speaking of sort of like concert comics and whatnot. But I think the big release from the past couple of weeks is the sort of jumping on point / not reboot, refresh point for the DC universe, and sort of the introduction to the new Absolute universe, and that is DC All In #1. This is what the wraparound cover looks like. Very interesting. I picked up that cover, but I also got the foil edition of Daniel Sempere's art. That is absolutely gorgeous. Very pretty. There's also one of the other ones that looked kind of interesting was one with the DC bullet. It was just all silver, front and back foil cover with a big DC bullet right in the front. And that it just looks cool. I like when they do fancy covers sometimes. I will pick them up. But this book, Bill, I don't know how you felt about it, but it is a flip book. So on one side you have the story from Darkseid's perspective, and on the other side it's from the heroes, basically, who have just rebuilt the Watchtower and are trying to bring together all the heroes to make one giant Justice League, a Justice League Unlimited, if you will. And through the stories, they do, of course, meet in the middle. So they're happening concurrently. So I actually read the Darkseid first, which was really interesting.
Heroes first, yeah.
Yeah, so reading it from the Darkseid perspective first, that was the feel that I had going to this book. It was just very much like, oh, we're recreating this villain with a new origin, with like a new direction for him. So, he's been depowered, he's weakened, he doesn't feel like he's the Darkseid, the Darkseid is anymore. And so, he's looking for something that he can do that can, bring back that old love and feeling, basically. And he realizes that he's got one chance, and that one chance is to get what he sees as the most powerful force in the universe or in the multiverse for violence, for vengeance specifically, and that is, of course, the Spectre. He needs to get the Spectre because he thinks if he becomes that, he will then embody, the true, power of all that is evil, or just strength over everything else. And he has this interesting battle with Eclipso. Again, Eclipso is sometimes the most powerful, or one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe. And he fights him on the moon because Eclipso has, captured Jim Corrigan and has been keeping him prisoner. And he finds Darkseid at this point, as he sort of incorporates. He does get the spirit of vengeance, sort of push pull. He's getting that spirit of vengeance. He realizes, and he's being told that he is a balance in this universe, that he is the evil, or the dark, balance, whereas Superman himself is the light balance, and the two of them have to exist together. And Darkseid's like, essentially, fuck that. Yeah. I need to be number one. I don't want balance. I want to be on top, and I need this. And
just always like a reading top.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm the only top. I'm not versed. Like, it's just very much. He decides that the only way that he can be number one is if essentially he recreates the universe in his image. And he rips a hole through the multiverse. And if you've been reading Absolute Power, the multiverse has been locked out for DC, for the heroes right now. So they're stuck in Earth 1, Earth Prime, Earth, only, whatever it is. But he finds a way to rip a hole in the multiverse and essentially find a planet, find a version of the universe where he hasn't existed. And now he is the only really the dark being, the most powerful being in existence at this point. And he is completely gone, dead from like the main DC universe at this point. And if you flip it over, and Bill, if you want to talk about the hero side, I think that was an interesting way to come at it too.
Yeah. And as you said, I read the heroes part first, and following the events of Absolute Power, they realize the Trinity and their extended honchos realize that they do need a Justice League in this world. That they do need to have it, and it needs to be a very powerful league. So they go the route of Justice League Unlimited, and they're distributing these cards that Mr. Terrific has helped build to create, and these are actually touched into the powers of the characters. So they will be able to call upon like what would be an ideal team given the circumstance. And Superman delivers the card to Booster Gold. And he mentions in their conversation, Superman and Booster talk about, how, his history with the League was always so uneven, but he was really excited about receiving this card because this was one of the artifacts that he saw in the museum that he worked in the future. So he was very excited because it really felt like it's justification for all of his actions. Up to this point. So they convene as many heroes as they can onto this new watchtower. And who do we get but Darkseid, or the Darkseid Spectre amalgam that attack, and that's where it crosses with Darkseid's story. The thing is, Darkseid dissipates. He dies. He effectively dies, and as Steve said, to go off into a universe where he will be the top dog. And they want to follow him, but it turns out that since he's not in the present day, the only people that can follow through with this are people who are seasoned as time travelers because of what their bodies have been through. So that means it's going to be Booster and Skeets. Booster goes to the future. He sees what Darkseid's world has been like. But while he's traveling there, he's getting glimpses of stuff from the present day. He's getting glimpses of a Batman who's not exactly Batman that he knows. He's getting glimpses of a Wonder Woman with an Amazon backstory that's much more brutal than what we see in Paradise Island. We get glimpses of a very different kind of Superman. Yes, it's the absolute characters that will be headlining their own books. So this is the absolute universe. But then he goes to the time where Darkseid is, where he could pinpoint where he was. And there's a team there that's going to basically take over the entire universe. And Booster looks at his Legion ring. And in the Legion ring, it's no longer the Legion insignia, it's Darkseid's Omega. And the Legion is under Darkseid's control, and that's the end of the issue.
Yeah, that splash page, which is the middle of the book, where both sides meet. Yeah. You have like this kind of like the image is upside down and right side up. I was like, oh my god, it's the Legion.
Yeah. He won the Light and Darkness War. He
did. That's in this universe that he's sort of found or created. They aren't really too clear on that one. I think it's I think they kind of want to make it a little bit vague. It's like, did he create this universe, or was this universe always there, but just
there and he
for a dark
took
side
over?
But I like this. Josh Williamson, Scott Snyder, Daniel Sampere. Like, I mean, there's just a really great group. Dan Moore. I mean, there's just a great bunch of creators who worked on this book, and you could tell that DC had a lot of faith in this. They wanted to throw a lot of their heavy hitters in there.
And I have to say, this hasn't been a great time. The last 6-7 years have not been great for Justice League stories. Some of the more interesting Justice League stories have been these miniseries written by Chip Zdarsky, or honest to God, the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. It's been these effectively Elseworld stories, and it's not been a great time for the Justice League. I mean, Bendis had his time in the sun as a writer. Certainly Scott Snyder's proven himself, but I just don't think
Christopher Priest.
No, I'm not going that far back.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, that wasn't a great time either.
Yeah, I'm not. I like some stuff of the Priest era. At least they felt like heartfelt characters.
That's true. I just didn't care for the bulk of it.
But I'm just saying specifically like post New 52.
Gotcha.
This hasn't been the greatest time. And this felt like a great Justice League story. That half of it felt like a Justice League story. And I'm very confident in what Mark Waid's going to do from what we've seen in terms of Justice League Unlimited. So, if it took a while to get the Justice League back, like, I'm A-okay with this version of them. And let's see how it goes where the team is, like dozens and dozens of individuals. Basically anybody who is a superhero gets a card. So let's see how that works for a little while.
Well, yeah. We have some comments here from Daniel again. The montage of heroes getting their cards was cute. I agree there too. And then I did like the light tone of the story at the start with the whole JLU thing, and then the appearance of Darkseid was quite the swerve.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's very much a. That half felt like a Justice League story, like a nice, like, hey, now we've got the whole team together, and it's bigger than ever, and everybody's here, and
we're here for all the greatest challenges. Boom! Here's the greatest challenge.
Here's the greatest challenge. Oh, we won, sort of. No, we didn't. It's worse. Like,
did you guys see how much speaking of Absolute? Did you guys see how much the original art for Absolute Batman #1 went for?
No.
Nope.
So it is the biggest single issue take-in to date. Because and my brain just shut off. Who is the artist on that? He did East of West. God bless it. Nick.
Katara?
No. Does that like anime?
It is.
Nick Dragata.
Nick Dragata.
Dragata, that's what it is.
So he's with Felix Liu now, and that should tell you something because Felix is going to get money for it. They sold every single page from Absolute Batman #1. That man raked in over $300,000.
Okay.
What?
$300,000 for the original art for that book.
Good for them.
No, absolutely. Yeah, get it. Get your bag, man. It just blew my mind that comic art from an issue #1 that just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Nick Dragata, and he's no slouch. And his art, I mean, his commissions, his art, like you're paying for them, but $300,000.
Basically 10 grand a page. Is what that comes to.
Ridiculous. Plus, I mean, they sold some of his covers too, and that was a big part of it. But yeah, I just found that gobsmacking.
Okay, well, I have a second DC book. I'm just going to go through this very quickly, and it's tied into a game. Now, one of the times in the past when I talked about a DC comic that tied into a game, I was not too complimentary, and that, of course, was Batman Fortnite. This was a different story. I'm glad to say, Steve, if you have the graphic, because I'll be all weird how this goes, but if you can put that up.
I do not.
Okay, well, I'll do my best here. And if you can see that, that is the cover to Multiverses Collisions Detected. And this is basically a prequel to the game, which features a host of Warner Brothers characters, and it'll be hard for you to see it when I start tilting it. But if you could see it in the way that I want you to see it, you would see that apart from the Trinity, there's also Bugs Bunny. There's also characters from Adventure Time. There's Tom and Jerry. There's Shaggy and Scooby. There's characters from Steven Universe. If you go into the game itself, there are characters from The Lord of the Rings and Ted Lasso. Basically a big Warner Brothers party in this game. And this takes a very comic-centric view on this particular game where all these characters can coexist. And Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman all have a nightmare. And in their nightmare, they're seeing a sort of glyph. Lois Lane has a great way of talking about this. How did she call it? Oh my God, what the hell is it? The version of Lois Lane in here is perfect. The writer is Brian Q. Miller, who hasn't done comic work in a long time. He's best known for for Batgirl, pre-52. It was a pretty long run. He was also a showrunner on Smallville. He's mostly done TV work. Yeah, there you go. And so Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they all have this very similar dream. And there's this icon that's flashing in their minds, and they know it's bad. So they use some technology, and it actually pins them over to the daughter of Mr. Miracle and Big Barda outside Jersey City, New Jersey. And they go there and they confront what they think is going to be a threat. That there's this harbinger of change, this harbinger of not necessarily doom, but of change. They open the closet, and who do they see but Bugs Bunny saying, "What's up, Doc?" I mean, it was. But the voices of the characters are great. I want a Brian Miller written Lois Lane. She was so funny, revealing to Clark that Bruce, Diana, and Lois have a group chat about Clark. Which I think if these characters existed, they probably would.
Yeah.
So it's very brief. It's only a couple of pages where Superman's talking to Lois, but like this is my Clark and Lois. This is my version of them. There's also some really cool fight scenes in the middles of this as they are trying to figure out what exactly is happening. Wonder Woman's fighting Cheetah, Batman's fighting Croc. But just for the fun comic booky crossover goodness that seems to be ahead of us in here, it was just it was a delight. It was everything Batman Fortnite wasn't. You didn't need to know shit about the game to enjoy it. You just know that you're going in and these worlds are converging in some form, and they're converging in some form through a game, and that's all you needed to know. And this was a lot of fun, and glad I got it, and have all the issues pre-ordered, and I think it's like really quick too. I think it's like a weekly book, because I think there's 4 issues this month, so I think they're just getting those issues, cranking them out. So I don't know.
I played the game.
Yeah,
I played the game. It's like a Super Smash Brothers, basically, where you get your stable of characters. You unlock more characters the more matches you play, and you've got pretty much all the Warner Brothers properties. You even have Game of Thrones is in there. You can play as Arya Stark. You can play as a couple different characters, Tom and Jerry, several different DC villains and heroes, lots of other Cartoon Network characters. It's a lot of fun if you like those types of beat 'em up kind of games.
Yeah. So, not a Batman Fortnite number 1.
The origin of La Bamba.
La Bamba. This is a thumbs up. This is an anti-Bamba. So
this is the Lambada.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our comics for this episode.
It was a good week.
Yeah. It was a pretty good week. I think the first time in ages that we just covered Big 2.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
The first time in ages we just covered Big 2, so there's nothing wrong with that. All right, well, we're going to start wrapping up this episode of the Comic Book Bears, and when we do so, we have a segment that's our first stop on the way to the last stop, and that is Geek Gets. Now, Caleb, with yourself away, I don't think you are equipped for this.
I got something.
Okay.
Ish. You want me to roll into it? Okay,
Sure.
so my Geek Get is more something I want to get. It is not something I already have, but I've already paid for it. So let me extrapolate. There is an artist that I'm a fan of, and I've gotten lucky to be a friend of this man. It's Kelly Williams. We've talked about him ad nauseum. Fantastic artist, fantastic person. A while back, he did a book with Joseph Siraki, who also they've done 2 books together. I think we spoke about My Name Is Joe. And I also spoke about this book, which is called The Adventures of Captain Suave. Well, The Adventures of Captain Suave was published. It was a 4-issue series by a publisher who I'm not even going to bother mentioning, who did that thing where they took a bunch of money from people, didn't pay them, had no intention of doing the right thing. We've heard of this before. It's also somebody that a mutual friend of ours has also dealt with. So although single issues came out. The collected edition never came out. So they are trying to get it published. They have launched a crowdfunding effort. It's not on Kickstarter. It's on like Zoop or something like that. I have a graphic that I can send you, and we'll get posted to different places. It's got a QR code. But basically, you can do a lot of things. Sign up and get a couple of versions of the book. You can get original art. You can get some commissions, and that's the tier I did. So I would very much. Kelly said, if you back this commission, I'll do any Golden Age character you want. I told them, hey, here's my money. I want this to get across the finish line, and if it does, I would very much like was a Daredevil, the death defying Daredevil. Wait, no, I didn't
Black
do
Terror.
Daredevil. I did Black Terror. That's right.
Yeah,
I was torn between the Death Defying Daredevil and Black Terror. I went with Black Terror because I want to see what Kelly does
because
with
we
him.
had our conversation, and I
Yep.
said, "Who would you do, Spectre?"
And
Or,
I
I don't think
literally,
Spectre or Black Terror.
yep, literally typed in Black Terror when you texted me about it, because great minds. And so I would like my Geek Get to be that. So once we publish, I'll put it on Instagram and put it out in the world
Yeah.
on the Facebook page. Give to it. Give what you can. Yeah, if you just want to give $1, you can do that. But you can get the digital copy for fairly cheap. You get the hardcover; it's not a bad price. And it goes up from there. Back it. The story is about, without going too long. It's about a man who is unsheltered, and he is also he suffers from mental illness, and so what he sees are these kind of very much tilting at windmills. Ideals of being a superhero, but that's not what's actually happening in the world, and so it gets him into some trouble. It is very earnest, it's very heartfelt, and it's very honest, and I thought it was great. So help get the collected edition made so I get my Geek Get.
Okay, great. Just give you a word of warning. I was not able to share Zoop on Facebook.
Yeah.
So just I don't know if it's a meta thing. So just
they have got a graphic with a QR code now that people can use, and it will take it to
great.
them. So I'm going to share that to all the things, or to you and to anything we can share it on.
Okay. So Steve, it looks like you got something over your shoulder and something else that you have the handle that you can show off.
Yeah. So this is in honor of Spooky Month, Spooky Comic Month. This is the latest JT4 sequel to The Nice House on the Lake, called The Nice House by the Sea. It has been it started coming out in DC Black Label later in the summer, so it's continuing now through the end of the year. So just a nice picture. And then also, I have a cat in front of me that's just doing his thing. And then, of course, it is McDonald's Halloween bucket time. So I got myself a white one with weird monster faces on it. And it does come with stickers this time, too, so you can put little stickers on it. I am not going to be going trick-or-treating, so I don't know what I'll do with this bucket, but it'll be around.
Very cool. All right, I'm gonna shake things up a little bit, just for this ending. I'm actually gonna go first for our Wolves of the Week, because my Geek Get is tied totally into my Wolf of the Week, because I've basically been sequestered at home, working hard and getting into a car accident and all kinds of shit. But so I haven't really accumulated much. But one thing did come via mail, and so my Geek Get is the complete third season of Superman and Lois.
Nice.
And let's move on to the Wolves of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you wolf at him. We do something similar where we wolf at something which may be a comic related, but it may also be a TV program or a film or a child initiative, anything other than something within you feel listener. That's the Wolf of the Week. So my Wolf of the Week also happens to be Superman and Lois, which started up again for its final season, 10 episodes. They premiered 2 episodes last Monday, and then this Monday they aired the 3rd episode. Shit goes down in this. And it has a very Empire Strikes Back feel of everything going to shit. Before there eventually is a resolution. I know that there was a lot of negative press in terms of the in terms of the removal of a lot of the series regulars, but so far we've had Sam Lane, we've had Natasha, we've had John Henry, we've had Lana Lang. So it looks like all the main characters are going to be making an appearance, and most of them already have within the body of the 3 episodes. Where we left off in the last at the end of season 3 was that Lex Luthor, who was played terrifyingly by Michael Kudlitz, is out of jail, and he's going for revenge on Superman and Lois. Not necessarily Clark Kent, but Superman and Lois. And it's been 3 episodes of really intense action and heartbreak. But it's Superman, and at some point the hope kicks in. So if you've never watched the show before, you have 3 seasons already. They're available on Max, and for the dying art that is home video, you can get them there as well. But just a really cool take on Superman. I know that we were treated this week to an image of Superman and Krypto from the upcoming Superman film, which is, Ty Templeman said it best. There's 2 kinds of fans of Superman: people who understand how magical Krypto is, and the others who are wrong. So it's while we wait for that, we have this, and I'm so happy this series is back. Long delayed, it got pushed back almost a full season, but we have that now, and very happy that we have this to wrap up. I'm glad they were able to get that last season to tie up all the storylines. Would have sucked if it ended on 3. It was a cliffhanger, literally. So,
oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't started back this season, so I have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, just be in a good place. Yeah, be in a good place.
I know I've read
a lot goes down. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, Steve, since you sort of have the mic, what's your wolf of the week?
My wolf of the week is probably one I've mentioned already, but I'm going to mention it again because it was just fucking fantastic the past several weeks, and that is Agatha All Along. So last week, spoiler warning. Last week they finally. Oh, okay.
I only watched 2 episodes. I've only watched 2 episodes.
Oh well, okay. Well, they finally revealed the thing that we all knew about.
Yeah,
we already knew about, but they did it in such an amazing way. I was so excited and happy, and it ended on such an amazing note. And this week, for this week's episode, we get to see the backstory. We get to see what was happening before episode number 1 of Agatha All Along, and kind of how this.
And I haven't seen this week's yet, so.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to get home and watch that.
It was good. It was very, very good. Again, there's always people who are going to poo-poo certain things because it doesn't happen the way that they want it to happen. But I was very, very pleased with how they revealed everything, and of course with the backstory and the explanation. So very cool. And I am really curious how the next several episodes are going to go. I have no idea at this point. But
can I come back now?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I didn't really spoil much.
Yeah,
I was like, that's like Sue Storm. Like,
oh my gosh. Hold on. Bill's been Thanos snapped.
Oh. The invisible.
Yeah, you know what? I would be okay if it was 5 years later right now. With the last few weeks, I would be okay if we're skipping, and I'll just, as long as I know that the snap's gonna come back, that I'm coming back. I'm like 5 years gone.
I could use the rest.
Yeah.
So
right. Over to Caleb.
Yep, my wolf of the week. First, let me say wolf to about 300,000 voters in Georgia who voted on day 1 of early voting. Holy shit. that's amazing. Just from the standpoint of I want people to vote. The more people to vote, the better off we're going to be. So that's awesome. But my wolf of the week really goes out to, I'm going to follow suit here with the guys, to a television show. And in fact, it stars one of the same people in Agatha all along. And that is Heartstoppers Season 3, which is now streaming on Netflix, to which I have seen. I'm starting on my third watch of it. We're somewhere in the middle of it. We've seen seasons 1 and 2 well over 30 times by now. It's just something that we repeat on the background constantly. It is it is our favorite couple show. You know what Heartstoppers is by now. If you don't, go look it up. It's very it's a teenage love story, but it's not like any other teenage love story you've ever seen before. It's a gay couple or a queer couple. One's gay, one's bi, but they figure out what's going on. It's very heartfelt. It's very earnest. It's very relatable. It's the show that I wish had existed when I was in high school. To say, hey, it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling this way. Go ahead and explore it. Do whatever work it out. It also deals with those really important struggles, and it's just honest about them. That's the thing. It's like the best word I can use is earnest. It is such an earnest show. I've got a tattoo of Heartstoppers on me, so I'm not, I'm a fan. So it's based on a comic by Alice Oseman. So go check out the book, go watch the show, and just enjoy it for what it is. So I love everything about the show. I love all the characters. It just continues to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just wanted to mention, if you are familiar with our Comic Book Bears family or not, my original co-host for this show was Justin Allen, and Justin's had some hard times. Jiggy was killed by a dog, his beloved pet, and he's in the hospital right now. He broke his femur above where his knee replacement is, so not great time for Justin. So we just want to say we're thinking of you, brother. I hope everything works out as well as it can. This is very sorry to hear about everything he's been going through this past weekend and into this week. So thinking of you.
Send us some love.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, we were the comic. That sounds terrible. We are the Comic Book Bears podcast. We are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the I'm so used to the old ways. You can find us on most of the social media pages as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you are watching us through Facebook Live tonight, thank you. If you are watching us later on YouTube, thank you. Please like and subscribe and leave good thoughts, because they follow us wherever we go. And if you are going to New York Comic Con and you're watching this tonight, I will be there tomorrow. I will be the overweight, middle-aged guy with a beard. You can't miss me. So
the only one there.
Yeah, the only one there. So until next time. Oh, we'll talk about next time. We're going to try to figure this out. We're going to try to get a spooky Halloween horror-themed episode on next time. Might not be on Halloween. Might be before that. We got to work that out, but we'll try to get to you again before the end of the month. So until that time, I'm Billy Z.
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb A.M.
And if you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Woof. Boom. Bye.